Hello, and welcome to Sideways. This week, we're talking about American punk bands I've never heard of, how hard it is to change when you've no idea who you'll be once you have changed, and why for many people caught in the chaos of addiction, the thought of recovery is genuinely terrifying. It's episode 13, so obviously, we're talking about fear.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, I've got my wrong notes in front of me.
Yeah, I just need to get my notes. Hang on.
Oh yeah, there they are.
There they are.
All in your head. In your head.
Mm-hmm. So,
are they in any sort of order?
What, in my head?
Yes. You don't know what I'm going to say yet, do you?
No, I don't. But I wanted to start actually by asking you a question.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know what the 4 core emotions are?
No.
Well, go on, have a go at least.
4 core emotions.
Yeah.
Sorrow.
So sadness.
Sadness.
Correct.
Happiness.
Good. This is good, going well. That's 2.
Anger.
Brilliant.
And something else.
Yeah, this is good because I have this theory that... well, actually, you got them very quickly, in fairness. Most people can get 3 eventually. And I always think there's something interesting about the one they can't get.
All right. So
what is it you wanted to talk about today?
Fear. Is that one?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
How about
right.
that?
Okay. I didn't realise that was...
It wasn't even set up, was it?
It wasn't set up. And I panicked a bit then, to be honest.
What, you mean you felt fear?
I did. Something about the fear that I was going to be...
Ridiculed
and shamed.
Yeah, yeah.
on the air, effectively.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Well, it would. It would. That's the thing about it all.
Okay. Anyway,
I did want to talk about fear. So that's a good intro. I like that.
Okay.
But see, the intro I was going to talk to you about was Fear, the band Fear. Do you remember them at all? It might be a little bit before. Really, I don't know.
Don't patronise me.
I'm not going to patronise before your...
before my time?
Well, not before your time, but I don't think it really fits into the genre of music.
I can kind of... I can see a logo, but I don't know if I've just imagined that in my head.
Yeah.
No, go on, tell me about the band Fear.
Well,
they sound as if they were metal.
Well, they were. Actually,
Yeah.
they were from the US, but they were a sort of a hardcore punk band.
No, they're American rock.
They weren't American rock. You know how I feel about that. I wouldn't give those sort of bands
love
house
REO
room.
Speedwagon.
No, I hate them with a passion. But getting back to Fear...
Yeah.
Before you try and throw me off track with your silliness, they were a punk band. I remember really liking them, but couldn't really get hold of much of their stuff at the time. It was late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
And I quite liked it because you remember the time when punk was around, the people in the bands had quite silly sort of names, and like Rat Scabies, Polystyrene, yes, and obviously Johnny Rotten and Sid Vicious,
Captain Sensible.
Well, the lead singer of Fear was a bloke called Lee Ving, which I thought was quite good, and the drummer was called Spit Sticks, which
nice.
I quite liked that. But
It sounds like a dog.
They did also have Flea in the band, who later went on to.
Did he join the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
He did. He played bass with Red Hot Chili Peppers. So they were quite a big group, really. They were around, but they had one of their albums, which means more now, I suppose, than it did at the time. Was one called "Have Another Beer with Fear."
Right. Okay.
Do you like that? I mean, it could be interpreted one or two ways. Probably a number of ways.
In what ways can it be?
Well, you're having a beer with Fear with the band called Fear. Could you be standing at the bar?
That was my immediate response to it. Yeah.
But to me now, I think having another beer with Fear would mean fear really having another beer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I know where that would lead to.
So have another beer, with fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rather than have another beer with fear.
Yes.
No comma.
No comma. There was no commas on the album front. But,
there you go.
They were quite a. They did some very nice sort of love songs, really.
Go on.
Do you know where this is going?
Well, I don't know any of their song titles, but I've got this sneaking suspicion you're going to tell me.
Well, I'll give you a little taste of it. There was one one of their singles was called "We Destroy the Family."
Yeah.
Which could be beer, couldn't it? That could be alcohol, etc.
Yeah.
Fresh Flesh.
Fresh Flesh.
Yeah. That was basically pornography put to music, basically, which I liked at the time. Dios del Terra.
No.
You don't remember that one?
No.
The one you might remember, it sort of reminds me of you, it's called Ugly as You. I think you may well have been their inspiration for that one, mate.
Do you think?
Yeah, no offence.
No, none
taken.
Actually, funny enough, when you're talking about those song titles, it reminds me, for some reason, of the Anti-Nowhere League song "So What." Do you remember that?
I do, yes.
Yeah, obviously, we can't recite any of those lyrics.
No, we can't. I remember going to see Anti-Nowhere League, and I sort of fell in love with a lot of that stuff at the time.
It was rude.
It was, but I Hate People at that time really meant it worked for me, that one.
Did it?
Yeah, it did very much. Not so much now, I've chilled right out, but it was good. But what brings me back to that anger sometimes is that Aaron at Group, he won't mind me name checking him. I know he listens to these podcasts, but he knows that I like listening to some of the stuff that he really likes, and he likes
some pretty hardcore stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I mean, he sent me one through the other day. There was a link to a band called Pig Destroyer. Have you ever heard of them? No. But I've
upsetting the vegans now.
It brought my musical taste. I'll send you the link through, mate.
I wouldn't bother actually.
Okay.
Because as you know, I'm not terribly fond of
that sort of music.
Yeah.
Well, they did have a single called Piss Angel, which I rather liked. You may have to edit that bit out.
I'm not going to.
You're not going to? No. Okay. I was going to leave it.
Your true colours are showing through now, aren't they?
No,
everyone's going to see you for what you are.
No, it's Aaron's fault.
Filth.
It's Aaron's fault. So he'll be listening. It's his fault. It's your fault, mate. Anyway, where did we get to? Fear. Yeah, fear. Because I've always found that fear, to me, was a major stumbling block of getting into recovery, and I find that all the time now.
Well, you're afraid of recovery.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, because there's a kind of fear of the change, surely, isn't there?
That was my next note that sort of led off from that. It was the fear of change was certainly my biggest fear, I suppose. When most people that I talk to, sort of when they're waiting to go to detox or waiting to go to rehab or there's perhaps again in the early part of recovery is the fear of change, which there's certain comfort, isn't there, in our old ways. And I know we've sort of talked about that before.
Yeah, familiar pain.
Yeah, it is. It is familiar pain.
So I want to ask you a question then about fear of change, if I may. I know you have a very tight set of notes and you don't like to veer away from them. In fact, I can kind of sense your discomfort when I take you off course, which is one of the reasons why I like doing it.
Oh, well, yeah, you could try away. I'm feeling a bit scared, but yeah.
Okay, so fear of change. I've got this theory that quite often people find it very difficult to change when they can't remember a version of themselves which they feel is better than the one they're experiencing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much.
So, for instance, if I'm working with someone who's suffered from anxiety and they can't remember a time in their life when they weren't anxious, that seems to be a barrier to recovery because they've got nothing to compare it against. It's not as if they're trying to get to somewhere they can remember being. They're actually trying to become something they can't ever remember being in their lives, right?
Yeah.
So when you are thinking about recovery, could you remember a version of yourself that was sober and happy?
Not really. Not really. And I think I probably speak for a lot of people that have addiction problems.
Yeah.
It's because it's so deep rooted.
Yeah.
And it's been with us for so long and so many years and active a lot of time when people come into recovery. It's been active for many years too.
Yeah.
No, I can't remember really what I was like before alcohol was a major part of my life. It's always been there, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was there in your school days, wasn't it?
It was really. It was, yeah, certainly in my latter school days, it was definitely there. I suppose, an earlier version of myself would have been so long ago that if I wanted to get back to that, I'd have to go back to Eastborough and start wearing shorts again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can't go back to a version of yourself previously, but there seems to be something that is helpful if we can remember kind of being okay and happy.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is that really you couldn't remember a time when you were sober and happy.
No, I can't. It's and I think most people that I come across in the recovery community feel the same.
Yeah, so that's part of the reason why there is a fear of change then, isn't it? Because change requires you to stop existing and reinvent yourself.
You do. There aren't any good reference points going backwards. You've got to remember a lot of people that come into groups have had some very traumatic upbringings.
Yeah.
And to even consider looking back to where they were before their addiction took hold would take them into some very dark places.
Yeah.
Obviously, my childhood was pretty much idyllic, so I was very happy then. But I think that the fear of change normally comes about because you are reinventing yourself, as you say. You're going right back to the basic roots of your personality and inventing yourself right from scratch.
Yeah.
So I think most people, I've never found anyone that's gone into recovery and come out a worse person. That's for sure. You come out completely different. I'm a completely different person than I was prior to going into detox. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting because I mean, when you say it, it's obvious, isn't it? But it's actually quite a powerful realisation. Nobody goes into detox or gets into recovery and becomes a worse person. You know, if people who are struggling with any sort of addiction could really embrace and understand and absorb that, that would, you would think that would take a fair degree of the fear away, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's a way to look at it logically. But a lot of people will fear the process itself.
Yeah,
how it will work. Will it be painful? Because we know that dealing with people that have had long-term opiate use, such as heroin, etc., it's the fear of, they call it the cluck, which is the withdrawal symptoms. It's the fear of the cluck that stops them seeking help. Mm-hmm. The cluck is so severe. I've watched someone go through this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, you know the guy I'm talking about, who was a friend who's a heroin addict. Mm-hmm. We did some video work once. I was going to video him taking his last bit of heroin, his last injection, and then following him through the cluck. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to do it he was quite keen to do it as sort of an informative video.
Right.
But it was pretty traumatic, really.
What, traumatic for you to record it?
Well, it was because in this case he was a groin injector.
Yeah, because the rest of his veins were shot.
The rest of his veins were shot. Now, I didn't really fancy videoing down that part of the world. And he wasn't overly keen either. He said, well, often I'll do it in my neck. He said, you can video me doing it in the neck if you like. And I've still got this footage because he said, well, use it for future purposes if you like. I haven't looked at it for a number of years. But it wasn't. It was unpleasant viewing, especially as he went straight into. He didn't really have. When people take heroin, there's a sort of 5, 10, some 15 minutes high, and then gradually you slow down and you go into a deep sleep. They call it gouching. Yeah. And when he was injecting his neck on this occasion, he went straight into gouching. And it's very dangerous injecting the neck because you're so close to the brain, which I didn't realise at the time. But that was it carries extra risk and extra problems. But anyway, we did that. I filmed that, and I filmed him the next day when he was starting to cluck, and he was explaining that it felt like his bones were itching, and his eyes were watering. He's starting to get stomach cramps, etc. And he didn't last. He went and got some heroin after a few hours, and so we couldn't see it through. But it's the fear of that cluck that stops people taking that step and going into recovery. They can't face. It's a 5-day cluck basically, so you're in severe pain for about 5 days before it starts to ease off. And it's with drink, obviously it isn't quite such a concentrated pain, but it coming off alcohol, it's the only drug you can come off of, and it can kill you if it's not properly supervised. I mean, there's the physical pain there, but the emotional pain is massively significant as well, isn't it? Yeah, very much so. So that the fear, my fear of going into detox was massive for all of the points we've mentioned earlier on. But you were drinking right until the last moment, weren't you? Very much so. There wasn't the car waiting outside. He's having a final. Yeah, he's bibbing and revving his engine, and I had my foot on the pedal beam with it open, ready to pop the last bottle of vodka in there. It's one of those very just that memory of that moment sticks with me. I can't remember too much before it or too much after it until we actually got to the detox place. Do you remember what that journey was like? Do you remember how you were feeling on that journey? I was feeling pretty scared. We had to go and pick up another guy in Sevenoaks, and he got in the car, and the guy driving said, "I can tell that both of you have been drinking right up to the last minute, haven't you?" And me and this guy sitting in the back looked at each other and said, "Yeah, we have." And we were still quite merry, effectively, at that point, because we were pretty drunk, the pair of us. Yeah. But I was going there with great trepidation, but with this inherent hope that really was my last drink. At that point, it was hope rather than intent. I couldn't see past the end of that car journey. No. I couldn't see past the end of that night or into the next day. So it was hope, really. so there was massive fear there. I mean, thankfully, going through the 10 days that I was in detox, the fear started to subside, but it came rushing back when I came out, because I was having to go back into the wide world again. I really liked it in detox in the end. I didn't want to come away.
Why?
There were people there that understood my issues.
Yeah.
I was around. I had doctors there, nurses constantly looking after me, giving me the right drugs at the right time to stop any pains, any withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah.
There was other people there in exactly the same position. They started to do work on us. We had little groups, and I found it fascinating. And all the meals were prepared. Lovely canteen we used to go. So it's a bit like a hotel without a bar, really.
Yeah, and also without any expectation.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I remember what that was like when I spent 5 weeks in a psychiatric hospital. Yeah, it felt safe.
Yeah.
And there was mint choc chip ice cream every day. It's much better than that.
That's right, top of the tree. I mean, I remember the first couple of days I couldn't eat anyway, but they made me go and sit with those people that were eating, just to feel connected. And so I dragged down from my room to go and sit there, even when I really didn't want to eat. But gradually, the food was really good quality, and suddenly my appetite came back. Yeah, same with everyone else who was doing exactly the same. But the fear of coming out of there was immense, and we find the same in groups where people are coming out of rehabs, after long-term rehabs, 3 months, 6 months, and also those people that are coming out of prison. Mm-hmm. They get exactly the same fear, become institutionalised. Even though I was only in there for a short time, I felt I'd started to become institutionalised, and I did like the safe feeling. But the fear came again then when I started to have to go into the recovery centre in Maidstone, where to start my sort of rehab in the community project that I was on. And it was I remember walking past the door in Mill Street in Maidstone there outside the hub, and I went by the door 2 or 3 times before I plucked up the courage to go in, and it was only because someone else was walking along beside me who was going in and held the door open for me that I went in.
What would have happened if that person hadn't opened the door?
I'd have got.
You'd have gone in eventually.
I would have done eventually. It just gave me a little bit of a kick up the backside just to get me moving. But I suppose also one of the other fears that comes up regularly is of not just what you become effectively and how you change, but how you'd perhaps you consider perhaps you're going to lose some of the positive things that were in your life, which is quite strange, really, because
some of the positives about addiction.
Well, there aren't any, are there?
Well, no, but maybe when you're at that stage, before you've entered recovery, maybe you're still feeling as if there are.
Yeah, well, I think you attach what tends to happen. I'll give you an example of this, because there's a guy that used to come into groups, and he was a journalist.
Yeah,
and he voiced the fact that he feared that he'd lose some of his creativity. Do you see what I mean? So he was attaching a positive trait of his addiction to that, and it was. I think the consensus in group was at that stage is that he'd been working as a journalist, and obviously was as a functioning alcoholic, and he was doing his job and being creative in spite of his addiction, not because of.
But do you not think? I mean, there is something in that, isn't there? That because obviously your mind is altered to some degree.
Yeah.
It might be in some cases that something is lost, but surely overall the benefit of sobriety is bound to outweigh whatever you've lost in terms of your creativity.
And I don't think. I think creativity is to my mind is hampered, certainly by drinking. I know, obviously during the 60s.
So it would be if you were painting.
Yeah, it would. But you remember during the 60s, some of the groups, when they first discovered that they could take LSD and felt that they were becoming more creative at that point, which I think that there may have been something in that, but the long-term problem with that is obviously you can only do that for so long.
Yeah.
And it's going to get hold of you.
So you'll make one great album instead of 10 really good ones.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you make one that would probably appeal to other people that take LSD as well, because they can sort of understand what the hell's going on.
Or like Blodwin Pig.
Something like that.
Caravan.
Yes. So that sort of that sort of group. Which is,
I remember as a college
completely
was a guy called Pat Driver, and he always used to skin up on a Blobwin Pig album.
Did he?
At break time. I always used to think that there was something very appropriate about choosing that particular bass.
But yes, yeah. No, it's a nice little anecdote.
Yeah, thanks.
Where were we? Yes, fear. There's an old saying in recovery that the good thing about going into recovery is that you get your emotions back, but the bad thing about going into recovery is you get your emotions back.
Very good, yeah.
And it's the fear of those emotions coming back that I remember was quite a big factor.
Yeah.
I didn't want to start to feel pain anymore, the pain that was going on around me. I didn't want to take responsibility back that I'd shed during my addiction.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my emotions to be exposed to what was going on.
There's something there also, isn't there, about emotions, that if you're doing something to block out or to stop you feeling the terrible lows, then unfortunately you're also blocking out your ability to feel the wonderful highs.
Yes, you are.
Really?
Yeah, you are.
You know, you can't really feel joy in addiction, can you?
No, you can't. No. I mean, people think it's you're on one big party, but you're really not. You're on this in this horrible situation where you're just drinking as much as you can just to feel normal.
Yeah.
And so it's a horrible situation to be in. But I think that one of the other fears that I remember going through was what other people would think of me when I went into recovery. Once I told people that I was an alcoholic and that I was going to go into recovery, I feared telling people at first.
What did you fear would happen?
I feared that they'd look upon me with absolute disdain.
Yeah.
And I felt shame about my condition.
Yes.
What
changed that then?
I told one or two people, and the reaction was, well, we sort of knew you had a problem going on there, and I'm really pleased you were doing something about it. Good on you. So
you actually saw where you feel shame because people would shame you. You actually receed admiration.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I mean, I've always seen you with disdain, so it didn't make much difference to me.
I don't want your admiration, thank you very much. You're the last person I wanted to admire me. But also, I remember the fear of failure. To be honest, the fear of failure has been something I've always had trouble with.
Yeah.
But I felt that if I told people I was going into detox initially, when I thought about it, who I was going to tell, I feared that I was going to fail myself and fail those people I told who were going to start rooting for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, that fear of failure is one of the things that would stop people going into recovery in the first place, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to do that because if I start, then, or rather, if I don't start, then I can't consider myself a failure when it doesn't work out. There's actually also a fear of success. You know, if you go into detox and you start on the road to recovery and you're kind of 2 months in and you haven't had a drink, a fear of success starts to kick in because you start to perhaps wonder, I wonder if I can sustain this. Now everybody expects me to be sober forever. What if I can't? Does that happen?
Yeah, it does. I hadn't really thought about it at that point of view, but yeah, very much so. Yeah, you do get to the point where in the first few days of sobriety, where it's a real struggle and you are white knuckling at a lot, you can't see that there's going to be anything other than failure ahead, and that gradually dwindles.
Yeah.
So that fear becomes less of an issue, a month, 6 months, a year down the line, because during that first year you become really joyous about it.
Yeah.
And it's a discovery which you never thought, or a discovery journey you never thought you were going to be going on.
Yeah.
But I think the fear also, I remember when I first went into recovery, was the fear of leaving behind my so-called friends.
Yes.
And I remember a guy coming into groups who was sort of semi-homeless, if you like. He spent most of his time outside down by the river with his mates. He's passed away now, unfortunately, because of his condition. But he couldn't. He was fearful when he did try having a little go at recovery, of leaving his mates behind, because he knew he wouldn't be able to carry on hanging out with them, and he relied and trusted these people for so long. I mean, the homeless community is pretty tight knit.
Yeah.
And that was a massive fear to him.
So there's a fear that he would. So he had a fear that he wouldn't be able to forge new relationships that would replace the ones that he was leaving behind.
Yeah,
which is understandable, isn't it?
It is understandable, and we did try and impress upon him. And what I found is, the people I left behind, or a lot of the people left behind, were really just drinking buddies.
So they weren't really friends.
Not really. And I think that because I immersed myself completely into my rehab course, and then into groups, into the fellowships, etc., that I made a load of new friends and people that I'd have never had a chance of meeting if it hadn't been for recovery. So I found that the replacement of friends and the core friends that I had anyway had always stuck by me.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there's his fear of leaving behind his friends, friends from that chaos of addiction. What's really sort of sadly ironic about that is that the friends you make on the other side in recovery are just as strong, only in a different way, aren't they?
They are.
You've still got that same bond, but it's a healthy bond rather than a destructive one.
Yeah, it is. And it started to sort of see that, but unfortunately his condition would become quite advanced. And so he sadly passed away without really getting to grips with it all. Yeah. But I think the fear that he had, and something that I shared, was that I was going to lack confidence once I wasn't drinking or taking any sort of drug, because I felt that I always needed it as a social crutch.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying exactly the same thing. When you're in the situation that he was, the fear that surrounds you constantly when you're homeless is quite dramatic.
Who did you think you'd be without it then?
Where do you think I'd be?
No, who did you think you'd be? Because you're saying that one of the things that you feared was you kind of losing that confidence that drink gave you.
Yeah.
Who did you imagine you would be? How would you be?
I thought I was going to become a very boring person.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd be.
No change there.
I didn't think I'd be funny anymore. And as you know, I'm extremely funny and witty, and I thought I was going to lose all that. But quite clearly, as this recording shows, I've gained an awful lot of that rather than lost it.
You had nothing to worry about, did you?
No, I didn't really, as it happened. But one of the things I remember also about talking about fear generally, I had a fear that I invented.
Oh,
I haven't really talked to anyone about this.
Wow, this is disclosure.
It is disclosure,
Right.
But I had what I've looked up what it is, and it's called. It was a pretend fear. I pretended that I had aviophobia.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
It was which is the fear of flying.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah. Oh, well, good. Some people might not, and I didn't know that was the actual name. I didn't know it had a name particularly, but. I used that and told people that I had this fear of flying so that I could get drunk before I went on the planes. So I could get to the airport and drink an awful lot before I got on a plane.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have a fear. I had no fear of going on there at all. But a lot of people do have that fear. So I sort of linked onto other people's fear, if you like, or attached onto other people's fear and used that for my own good.
Excellent.
And so I did that. But I remember I nearly got myself into some quite terrible trouble on it, okay? Because I did, even though I didn't have a fear of flying, I did have a fear of going for extended periods without drink.
Well, yeah.
And I remember I was sitting in an airport.
Only do short haul then.
Well, I was on a holiday with a girlfriend of mine at the time, and we had stopped over in Qatar.
As you do.
As you do. Now, this is quite a long haul flight, as you can imagine, because we were off to the Maldives, and we stopped in Qatar. I had to stay there for several hours.
Oh,
now, as you know,
isn't it dry?
Yeah, it's a dry stay.
Yeah.
And I was starting to get really twitchy, but I did notice that you could go into the duty free, which is a separate place in the airport, with all security guards around it. And you could go in, and you had to buy any alcohol in these special bags that are all taped down, and you could take them with you. And they had to stay secure like that until you got on the plane. And I was waiting to get onto this little plane to go off to one of these little islands in the Maldives. And it was on one of those little seaplanes, with that you took off from on the sea with the like skis underneath them. And there was a tiny little plane. So obviously no drink on board, no bar, no hostesses, anything like that. And I was getting really panicky. And so just about before the plane was going to leave, I sort of rushed back to this secure area, went and bought some vodka, took it into the toilets and undid all the packaging and drank it down really quickly. It was a half bottle.
Yeah. Did the lot.
And did the lot.
Yeah.
But there's all these notices up saying, it's illegal, it's a dry state. And, what I was risking at that point was, obviously, if I'd have got caught at that point, I'd have been thrown into some filthy jail and then probably ended up getting whipped in the market square, in a few weeks' time. But that didn't put me off.
Oh.
I still did it, and I got away with it. But I was shaking when I was doing it.
Did you just get rid of the packaging?
I hid it in the toilet. You hid it behind the cistern, came out, made sure there wasn't any guards about, then rushed to get onto the plane.
Swerving. You probably weren't swerving,
Not
mate.
at that point, but when it cut in later on, I started to feel the calmness come over me because I was out of danger and I'd had enough to drink at that point, and I could enjoy the rest of the holiday because I was going to places where there was a bar, but that was quite close, so it could have ended quite disastrously.
Yeah.
But I haven't come across anyone else that's invented fears like that, but I'm sure there are plenty about. So.
Well, I expect people do.
It'd be interesting if people listening to this, if they let us know on the comments on that.
That's a better suggestion than your suggestion that people write in and tell us if they've never seen The Simpsons.
I think we got one, didn't we? I think we got one person because most people have. So it was just the one comment. But so
now we want to know if anybody's invented any fears to give themselves some sort of a benefit.
Yeah, an advantage.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to think about that.
Okay.
I've probably done it myself. And not involving drink. No,
it is something to think about. But I've sort of come to the end of my notes now. So if there's anything else you wanted to add on to that,
I think that's fine. That's been quite an interesting discussion about fear.
Well, I was going to go on to ask you about phobias and stuff, really, and how you dealt with how would you deal with phobias if someone comes into your practice with because there's all sorts of phobias, isn't there? I was looking up some of the different sorts of phobias that there are.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one called phobophobia, which is a fear of fear. Yeah. I mean, I've
dealt with some very strange phobias.
Yeah.
I can remember dealing with a fear that someone once had of Chinook helicopters.
I've got a fear of those. They come flying over where I live, right near the barracks.
Have you? You've got a fear of them?
I haven't got a fear of them particularly, but I fear they're going to shake some of the vases off of the. They do. They come over so close.
Well, if you
shakes
came
the
in,
windows.
So to take you as an example, if you came in with your fear of Chinook helicopters, I'd tell you to secure the vases a little bit more, and I'd take your money and send you on your way.
Thanks. Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah.
But to seriously answer your question, phobias. It's quite useful if you can understand or if you can find out from someone where the phobia originated. Usually phobias are created in an instant, and then people live with them years and years and years and years, thinking that they can never be undone. But theoretically, if you can learn to be afraid of something in an instant, then you can unlearn it again.
There's a fear that's becoming more and more prevalent these days, which is nomophobia, which is the fear of not having your mobile phone on you.
Yeah, well, I can see someone from here.
Can you?
That.
Yeah.
In fact, both of them over there on their phones.
Yeah. Well, it's
disgrace.
It's becoming quite an epidemic, apparently.
Yeah, I noticed yours was binging.
It was earlier on, but it's spreading faster than the coronavirus. I can't even say it.
Easy for you to
I've got a fear of trying to say medical terms. It must be something with that.
Slightly off track now.
Yeah, I think we have.
Well, anyway, I've got to go and check the potatoes.
Yeah.
So. Is that it?
Yeah, it is. We've run quite a lot over time, haven't we? Really.
That's all right. I'll edit most of your bits out.
Most of my stuff's rubbish anyway, so I'll be happy with that.
Yeah. There's your confidence taking a dip again.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Sobriety.
Thanks for shattering my self-esteem.
I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Cheers then.
Bye.
Bye.
Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work, visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, and you can email us to let us know what you think of the show and ask us any questions that you may have. And finally, we want to thank you for listening and ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.
Finished with my woman, 'cause she couldn't help me with my mind. People think I'm insane because I am frowning all the time. All day long I think of things, but nothing seems satisfied.